I love this Super Bowl matchup because it presents such a nice clash of styles where the Chiefs have been a Super Bowl contender for as long as they've had Mahomes. And inversely, this Eagles team just last year looked like they were eh in the mix, but not a true contender because the Buccaneers handled them mightily in the first round of the playoffs last year. Perhaps even more than that, it presents a clash of ideologies where the Chiefs are, again, kind of the old standard, and that they have Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback they traded up for, and has since richly repaid them in the tune of the best quarterback in the NFL and one of the best of all time as well. The Eagles, again, couldn't be much more different than the Chiefs, as they had a more modern approach with drafting Jalen Hurts in the second round when they already had Carson Wentz, who seemed like it was going to be their guy. So they diverged in the quarterback sense, and I think it really shows with their team as a result because pretty much at every position, aside from quarterback, I would argue that the Eagles have, at worst, as good of a positional group as the Chiefs do. And in most cases, I would say the Eagles actually have more talent at each positional group. And in my opinion, that makes for the best sort of football, as you really don't know how to compare the teams. And that sort of creates an ambiguity then as to who the favorite is and who it really should be. I think when you look at the matchups for the quarterbacks, it'll really just come down to how big of a difference is there between Patrick Mahomes being just a more talented player than Jalen Hurts. No disrespect at all to Jalen Hurts. He is fantastic, but Patrick Mahomes, again, at his best, is maybe the best quarterback ever. The other side to this, though, of course, is how much better is the rest of the Eagles team than the rest of the Chiefs? And I think that's really interesting to explore. I think, like most people, the offensive line of the Eagles is the best in the entire NFL. And really, I don't think it's close because I think they're maybe the best pass blocking unit and also maybe the best run blocking unit in the NFL. So there's no deficiency, and there's no deficiency in any of their starters either. They're all not just passable, they're really good. And I think that matches up really nicely with the Chiefs because though you never want to count out an elite player such as Chris Jones, it's Chris Jones and then it's nobody else really for the Chiefs defensive line. And I think then the Eagles just need to worry about Chris Jones and everything else should fall into place. So I think they're going to have a pretty big advantage on the offensive line. Inversely, I think the defensive line of the Eagles has the advantage against the offensive line of the Chiefs as well because the matchups just are very favorable for Philly, and that's in part because I think they might have the best defensive line in the NFL, but also they have so many different types of guys to throw at you, and that just works nicely against the Chiefs' tackles, I think, because you have the speed of Hassan Reddick against the slow footed Orlando Brown. That is a massive, massive mismatch. And then you also have Andrew Wiley against maybe a Robert Quinn, or it doesn't have to be speed against him necessarily. It could be power as well. You also have Brandon Graham to attack Andrew Wiley also. So there's a lot of ways that the Eagles will be able to do damage, despite the Chiefs having, in my opinion, a top 5 offensive line. So I would say, again, I favor the Eagles pretty decisively. As far as the weapons are concerned, I like the Eagles again on both sides of the ball. To put it bluntly, the Chiefs don't have anybody as good as Devonta Smith at wide receiver, and he's their second option behind AJ Brown, who I think is about as good as Travis Kelce. As far as the defensive backs are concerned, I really like L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie, but they have a bit of a weakness in Jalen Watson, whereas the Eagles' defensive backs have no issues aside from being a bit weak at safety, which admittedly the Chiefs are strong at. But I'd rather have a small issue at safety than have a weakness in cornerback. So, in the end, what do I think will decide the unstoppable force of Patrick Mahomes meeting the immovable object of the Philadelphia Eagles? I think the game will be determined by the way the teams match up, meaning the Chiefs have a legitimate weakness in run defense, and the Eagles' best trait is how well they run. So I think numerous plays will go the Eagles' way where they either get a 20-yard run or a yard run that is a hard earned 4th and 1. Whereas I think the Chiefs are just not going to be able to respond in kind. Where, yes, the Eagles don't have the greatest run defense, and the Chiefs have a good offensive line in their own right. It's not what Kansas City is built for. They're only running about 30% of the time. Whereas inversely, the Eagles are running 40% of the time, and in an ideal world, they're running 100% of the time. Because if they can play it how they want to, the Eagles' offensive line can just tear you to shreds. And I could see that happening. I also think it's going to be difficult for the Eagles to consistently have passing success when you're just outmatched quality wise from the corner versus your wide receiver. I don't think there's any advantage for the Chiefs wide receivers. So yeah, I'll take the Eagles at about a 52% level of confidence. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.